Hey everyone, how's it going? The mid-season update for Cold War Zombies should be here soon, and I've been thinking about what they could add into the game. We already know that the cranked game mode is going to be added, and there's a good chance we'll be seeing Tombstone return as well. When I saw Treyarch tweet out the new design for the Tombstone perk, I started thinking about what other perks they could bring back into Cold War. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the top 5 perks I want to see Treyarch bring back in Cold War. Important distinction, these are the perks that I want them to bring back, not the perks I think they're going to bring back. There's already been a handful of leaks and faked pictures online of what perks are going to return to the game. I'm not referencing any of those for this video, it's just the perks that I would like to see return. I also don't think that all of these are going to return to the game. The Wunderfizz on Die Maschine has 4 open slots, and Tombstone is almost certainly going to be taken up by one of them. So I'm assuming that 3 more perks will be added into Cold War over the course of the game's life cycle plus Tombstone. And since we're talking about 5 perks in this video, I'm expecting that some, if not all of these, won't actually be added into the game. But I wanted to talk about it anyway, and with that, let's get into the list. The first perk I would like to see added into Cold War is PhD. PhD would be incredible to have in Cold War. For starters, it is a fan favorite perk. There would be tons of hype to see PhD added into Cold War, but the second and most important reason is because of the actual gameplay. Cold War completely revived the ray gun. The ray gun is the best gun in the entire game, and as we all know, the ray gun can deal significant splash damage to the player. Adding PhD would make the ray gun even better. It would also encourage people to use other explosive weapons. A lot of people who are going for dark matter have been leveling up the launchers in the zombies mode, and that would make the launchers far better for leveling up and just for general gameplay. The second perk I would like to see added into Cold War is Mule Kick. Mule Kick has been in every single Treyarch game since the original Black Ops, and the only maps it's not been in are Transit, Mob of the Dead, and now Die Maschine. This game would benefit so much from having Mule Kick. It's not so much that the game has an ammo problem like we saw in the original Black Ops, but it would be extremely useful for general gameplay as well as simply leveling up weapons. You could use the ray gun, perhaps even with PhD, one of the die weapons, and whatever weapon you'd like with Deadwire or Turn for the extra damage, or just to level up weapons during a double weapon XP weekend. And if you don't want Mule Kick, you don't have to use it. It's just a way to give players more options to play the game, which is never a bad thing. The third perk I'd like to see added into Cold War is Electric Cherry. Electric Cherry isn't a super necessary perk in Die Maschine, though there are a handful of uses for it. It would be extremely helpful to have if you're camping on top of Noct. You can use it if you get cornered to stun zombies and try and shoot your way out instead of using Ring of Fire or a chopper gunner. You could also use it to stun zombies that are attacking Orlov in the Easter egg. And just like PhD, Electric Cherry is a fan favorite perk that I'm sure a lot of people would love to see return. That all being said, this is probably the perk that is least likely to return. Cold War has been extremely grounded so far, and having a burst of lightning every time you reload doesn't really fit into that framework, but I still think it's possible and I'd be happy to see it back. The fourth perk I'd like to see return in Cold War is Vulture Aid. Vulture Aid would be an incredible perk to have, and of all the perks we've talked about on this list, I would like to see this one back the most. Just like every perk we've had on the list so far, Vulture Aid is a fan favorite. People have been asking to get Vulture Aid back since its debut in Buried nearly 8 years ago, so seeing it return in Cold War would be very exciting for a lot of people. On top of that, it would actually be very useful in Cold War. Getting additional points would make the kill-based point system far better. In fact, it makes more sense to have those small point drops in a kill-based point system instead of the damage-based system of Black Ops 2. The green mist would also be extremely useful while camping on top of Noct. You could probably avoid using a Ring of Fire or chopper gunner that way, and it would completely change how we as a community do the Easter egg and speedrun the game. And the additional ammo certainly wouldn't hurt either. However, the change I want them to make with Vulture Aid is to add another drop that would give players a small amount of salvage. Salvage can be painfully hard to come across, and this would really help tip the scales back in the player's favor. It would make going down and having to buy more self-revives far less detrimental. It is a perfectly natural integration of the two systems, and would be far easier than completely rebalancing the way salvage is acquired in the game. And the last perk I would like to see them add is Ethereal Razor from Black Ops 4. We can all have our opinions on whether Black Ops 4 was a good or a bad game, but Ethereal Razor's niche melee-only approach to zombies would actually fit really well in Cold War. We already have a dedicated knife that we can bring into the game, and we can pack-a-punch that knife and use it into some pretty high rounds. It would only make sense to give melee-only players more options by adding in a perk that makes that knife even better. And for normal players, I would suggest that one of the tiered upgrades for Ethereal Razor would do increased damage to megatons or other boss zombies. It could almost take the place of something like Pop Shocks from Black Ops 3 and would make it extremely useful for traditional casual games. Now, one question I'm sure a number of you have is why I don't have Double Tap anywhere on my list. Double Tap is one of the perks that a lot of people are hoping will return in Cold War, and there are even some leaks that suggest this is one of the 4 perks that will be added into the game. It's obviously a fan favorite and the only original World at War perk that isn't in Cold War, so why isn't it on my list? Well, while I would like to see Double Tap in Cold War, I don't think it's needed in the game. Double Tap essentially increased your weapon's damage per second, and we already have that covered with weapon rarities. I don't think they need to add another feature into the game that further increases weapon damage with weapon rarity already in the game. But before I end this video, I would like to add a 6th bonus perk that I would like to see added into Cold War, and this perk doesn't actually exist yet. I would like to see Treyarch add a completely new perk into the game that is good. I don't care what that perk is, I just want something new and useful. Elemental Pop, while it's aesthetically great, isn't all that useful in practice. And if you ignore the plethora of perks that were added into Black Ops 4, the last great perk Treyarch would have added is Widow's Wine. I'm ignoring the Black Ops 4 perks because there's a ton of them and the system itself is completely different, so that leaves us with Widow's Wine at the end of 2015. That was over 5 years ago since we got a great new perk with this perk system. We've been using some variation of the same perks for the last 5 to 12 years, and I'm getting a little bored of them. Adding in a new perk that is great will breathe a lot of life into not just this game, but the entire series. But there we go, those were 5 perks that I would like to see added in the Cold War. Let me know what you thought of my list and leave some perks you would like to see in the comments below. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.